got a question for you all. If I asked, who is the most powerful Black person in the world, who would you say? Think about that for a second. Is it a politician that comes to mind, a musician, a wealthy billionaire like Dangote? Well, you see, the most powerful people are rarely the people we know, hear, or even talk about. Today, we're talking about Black economic power as we meet some of the most powerful Black people in finance. Now, these people collectively control and influence over $2 trillion in assets. Yes, trillion with a T. But some of them you've probably never heard of. And I know some of you may be asking, well, what makes them the most powerful people? Well, because when you control that much wealth, you get to decide what companies get funded, what infrastructure gets built, which industries rise and fall, and even sometimes which leaders get in power. That's right. There are people in boardrooms, in investment firms, and global banks who are literally shaping the world economy, and they look like us. Yet, too many of us don't even know their names. And my people, the truth is, we need to know who holds the bag in our community, because if we don't, we won't know how to get to it, right? So buckle up, because by the end of this episode, you see why Black wealth, Black leadership, and Black influence matter, and also why they are no longer just a dream. They are real, they are global, and they are growing. And as always, you know I've got a big question for you at the end to get us all thinking, so stick around. But before we dive in, I want to say a big welcome and thank you to all of our new subscribers. Our community is growing fast because of you, and we at Panagenius TV appreciate you all. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to join the family. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss another critical conversation like the one we're about to have. Now, before we meet these movers and shakers, let's take a step back and really understand what we're talking about here, right? There are so many more Black leaders out there who control the bag. They make money moves, and I'm talking billions of dollars. But the ones I'm focusing on today collectively influence and oversee over $2 trillion in assets. To put that in perspective, that's more than the GDP of countries like Canada, Italy, or Brazil. This is serious money. And there are people making decisions on how that money moves across tech, infrastructure, banking, and beyond. This is Black power in the world of finance. Now, this list is not in any particular order, right? But I will start with Africa, and then we're going to make our way to the US. Shall we? Let's get into it. So up first, I want you to meet Dr. Benedict Oke-Orama, the king of African trade finance. Dr. Benedict Orama, president of Afreximbank, is one of the most powerful financial leaders on the continent. Now, for those who don't know, Afreximbank is like Africa's own export-import bank, controlling over $37 billion in assets. They finance major projects across Africa and the Caribbean, from railways to factories. Dr. Orama, who is one of Nigeria's top economists, is playing a chess game at a continental level, creating trade routes, financing infrastructure, and driving Africa's economic independence. He's making sure that African nations, as well as the Caribbean, can trade with each other without begging for Western loans. So when we talk about building Africa's future, you best believe Dr. Orama is behind the scenes, making the money moves to make that happen. Next, meet another Nigerian, Adebayo Ogunleshi, the Nigerian behind the world's airports. If you've ever flown into London's Gatwick Airport, you've used one of Adebayo Ogunleshi's assets, because this brother right here owns airports. That's right. You've probably been too busy trying to catch your flight that you never thought of the business behind airports, right? It's a whole thing, and it's massive. Through his firm, Global Infrastructure Partners, GIP, Ogunleshi manages over $100 billion in global infrastructure. We're talking about airports, energy plants, and more. In other words, he runs the world's critical infrastructure. In 2024, he sold his company to the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, for a record $12.5 billion in a historic deal that catapulted him to multi-billionaire status overnight and positioned GIP as an even bigger player in infrastructure investments. He currently serves as chairman and chief executive officer of GIP, as well as a senior managing director of BlackRock and a member of the firm's global executive committee and its board of directors. This guy is a big deal. He's shaping how people travel, how cities run, and how countries connect. And that makes him one of the most powerful, yet very low-key, Black leaders in the world. And my final pick from Africa, someone you should know, a man from the Ivory Coast, whose influence is not directly in the same way as the others, but still critical nonetheless. Meet Mohamed Kandeh, the man behind the deals you never hear about. Mohamed Kandeh is global chair at PwC, the second largest accounting firm in the world. He is the firm's first Black leader and the first from the consulting side rather than audit or tax. His story is quite incredible as he literally worked his way up to that role in just a little over a decade after joining the firm's global advisory and M&A, mergers and acquisitions team. You know, those billion-dollar deals that decide which companies live or die? For example, the BlackRock deal that I just talked about, $12.5 billion acquisition of GIP. Yeah, Kandeh is often in the room structuring and advising Fortune 500 CEOs and boards on strategy, finance, and growth. So while he may not be directly investing, he tells company where, when, and how to invest. While some folks run companies, Kandeh shapes entire industries from tech to healthcare. His influence may not be in the headlines, but in the boardrooms, his voice is one of the loudest and most important. All right, now let's turn over to the US. First up, I want you to meet two giants, real OGs, as they say, of finance. Mellody Hobson and John Rogers. They are the powerhouse leadership team behind Ariel Investments, the largest Black-owned asset management firm in America. And when I say big, I'm talking $16 billion under management, real money, real influence type of big. Ariel isn't just managing money, they are shaping markets. When Ariel makes an investment, companies pay attention. They invest in major public companies from tech to finance to consumer goods, and they bring a long-term, value-driven strategy to investing, meaning they don't just chase quick profits. They build sustainable wealth and influence how companies operate. Beyond sitting on the boards of giants like JP Morgan Chase and Starbucks, Hobson is known for using Ariel's position to push for diversity at the highest levels of corporate America. She makes sure that when Ariel invests, companies know diversity and accountability are part of the deal as well. And John Rogers? Well, he founded Ariel back in 1983, the first Black-owned mutual fund firm in the U.S., and has spent decades proving that Black investors can compete and win in the highest levels of finance. Rogers has a sharp eye for undervalued companies and a commitment to growing wealth in the Black community through long-term investing. So when we talk about Black power in finance, Mellody and John aren't just managing billions, they're influencing boardrooms, shaping industries, and showing that Black investors have the expertise and vision to drive the market itself. And let me tell you, as I said, when Ariel Investments makes a move, Wall Street listens, period. Up next, a name you've probably heard at least once. Robert F. Smith, the billionaire who runs tech money at a level that's almost hard to comprehend. Smith is the founder, chairman, and CEO of Vista Equity Partners, one of the most powerful private equity firms on the planet, managing over, get this, $100 billion. And every single dollar of that is invested in software and tech companies. Let me say that again. He's running tech money. And as we all know in today's world, tech runs everything from the apps on your phone to the software that runs billion-dollar corporations. Smith has his hands in it. Now, a lot of people know Smith because back in 2019, he made headlines when he paid off the entire student loan debt of Morehouse College's graduating class, an iconic moment that shook the world. But what most people don't realize is that behind that historic generosity is a man whose financial power shapes entire industries. His investment decisions impact over 80 companies, tons of thousands of employees, and billions in economic activity. But here's what makes Robert's story truly powerful. Beyond just the money, he decides which technologies will shape our future. His firm backs enterprise software, AI, cybersecurity, and cutting-edge tech that drives everything from finance to healthcare to education. So when Robert Smith and Vista Equity say yes to a company, that company doesn't just grow, it can become a market leader overnight. Up next, meet Ken Chenault and Ken Frazier, the billion-dollar game changers at General Catalyst. Now, if we're talking about Black power in finance, we cannot leave out these two legendary leaders, Ken Chenault and Ken Frazier, who are now using their influence to shake up the world of venture capital through General Catalyst, one of the most influential VC firms out there. So let's start with Ken Chenault, the former CEO and chairman of American Express. Yes, that American Express, where he led for 17 years, turning it into one of the most successful financial giants on Wall Street. Well, today he's chairman and managing director at General Catalyst, helping to direct $25 billion into some of the most cutting-edge companies in tech, healthcare, fintech, and beyond. And then there's Ken Frazier, the former chairman and CEO of Merck, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Now, under his leadership, Merck made groundbreaking advancements in medicine, but now he's moved into venture capital, serving as chairman at General Catalyst right alongside Chenault, but leading its health investments. Together, they are using their expertise to steer billions of dollars into companies that are innovating in tech, in science, in healthcare, and are pushing for diversity in venture investing. But here's why this is real power. You see, venture capital is where the future is built. It's where the next Google, the next Amazon, the next Salesforce will come from. And Chenault and Frazier are at the table deciding what gets funded and what doesn't. So when we talk about shaping the future, these brothers are literally doing it with billions of dollars behind them. And finally, last but certainly not least, one of the most powerful women in finance, period, Sandra Brown Duckett, the queen of retirement money. Duckett is the CEO of TIAA, which manages, get this, $1.3 trillion in retirement assets. That's right, trillion with a T, y'all. If you're a teacher, doctor, or working professional with a retirement plan, chances are TIA has your money, and Thasunda is the one who is making sure it grows. She controls more money than the GDP of most countries, and she's shaking the investment decisions that determine how millions of people will live after they stop working. But here's what makes her story especially powerful. She's not just managing money. She's shaping the entire conversation around wealth and retirement, especially for Black and Brown communities. She is unapologetic about using her seat at the table to demand that people who look like us are not left behind in wealth-building conversations. When Duckett speaks, Wall Street listens because she's not just running a company, she's controlling a massive chunk of America's retirement future. She's pushing companies to think about financial literacy, generational wealth, and access to investment opportunities for communities that have been locked out for too long. So there you have it, my people. Powerful Black leaders in finance you should know. We all should know. And here's the thing. We can't fight for economic power if we don't know who already has it. We can't call for wealth building if we ignore the people already doing it. So today, now that you know these names, Dr. Orama, Ogunlesi, Conde, Hobson and Rogers, Smith, Ken Chenault, and Ken Frazier, and Duckett, I want you to remember that representation matters, but ownership is the real flex. These leaders are showing us what's possible, but we need more. More Black venture capitalists, more private equity players, more bankers, more CEOs. Because when we own the capital, we own our future. Before we go, I want to leave you with some food for thought. Because this isn't just about knowing who holds the power, right? It's about how we use that power to transform our communities. Whether we're talking about Africa, right here in the US, or across the Caribbean, how do we leverage this multi-trillion-dollar of Black economic influence to build real change, to create businesses, fund schools, invest in ourselves and our own futures? And more importantly, what role will you play in building Black economic power? Will you invest? Will you lead? Will you learn the game? Because trust me, the game is being played whether you're in it or not. And if you want to win, you got to know the players and you got to know how to play it smart. So drop your thoughts in the comments. How can we turn this influence into impact? Are you surprised by any of the people on the list? Who would you add to this list? That's it for today's breakdown. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, take care.